Welcome to the Yellowjackets Hive, presented by cordcutting.com. I'm Media Melanie here with,
And I'm Emily.
and we're back. This is a live stream, and we are just getting our Instagram feed going. Let me just make sure that's up. I believe it is. And awesome. Okay, so we're going to be covering today one of those topics that we like to debate, which is which timeline is more compelling, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, first of all, I think we have some slightly different feelings between season 1 and season 2.
Yeah.
And I think we both skew towards liking the same one maybe a little bit more than the other. So, Emily, just like big picture view overall, and we'll get into the nitty-gritty here soon, but which is your favorite timeline?
I have to go with the teen. I just have to. There's just so much more meat in that part of the story. And
Meat. Good choice of words,
yes,
by the way.
that was completely unintentional too.
Really good.
And I am just so curious to see how they arrive at the point that we see in the pilot with Pit Girl and the Cannibal Council. That's like one of my biggest lingering questions as to how they get there, who those people are, who fills what roles, who goes in what side if they split, that kind of thing. So, yeah, definitely the teen. What about you?
I'm gonna go with teen. And just to your point of the Pit Girl and Cannibal Council, like talk about a deep tease. They
Yeah.
brought this stuff into the pilot, and we're almost going into season 3 and haven't seen any of that stuff. So, like, deepest tease
Yeah.
of all time, first of all.
Yeah,
Uh,
for sure. I have friends that have watched that are upset that we haven't gotten to that point in the story yet. They're like, how much longer can they drag this out for? I'm like, it's a slow burn show. That's the way it goes.
Same. And some people that I've turned on to the show, that's one of their biggest complaints is, hey, they
Mhm.
draw you in with this, awesome scene of people sitting around a fire, dressed in these costumes, this girl getting slaughtered, but
Yeah.
still no sign of it. So,
No, not
and
even a hint.
speaking of Pit Girl, Kennedy. Hello, Kennedy. How are you? Pit Girl is Jen. I don't disagree. And hopefully we will get answers soon. But, Emily, I'm with you. I feel like the teen timeline is just overall more compelling because
Yeah.
there's a lot of unknown. We don't know how they arrive at certain things in the present day. But it's conflicting for me because I'm a 40-something-year-old woman and I feel
Yeah.
like I should be more into the adult timeline. And maybe in one sense, I relate to it more, being that that's like my demographic.
Yeah.
But from a drama storytelling TV standpoint, it's got to be the teen timeline.
I'm kind of in the middle of them age-wise. I mean, I'm a little closer to the adults than I am to the teens, but I'm kind of in the middle. So I relate to both in a sense. So yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it's tough. But you know what? I will say your show notes today are so great. You brought up so many
Thank
pros and
you.
cons for each. And we're just going to kind of go through, starting with season 1, do a comparison of the timelines, talk about some pros, cons, and then hopefully some people will chime in the comments. Let us know, what you think. And Sylvia's here. I'm still waiting for the bonus episode for season 2. Like, what happened? LOL. Hey, we all are. And you know what? The strike, I think, definitely put that a little bit further behind
Yeah.
schedule. So Ashley Lyle
Yeah.
said between season 2 and season 3. So it could be any time
It's
this
like
year.
closer to season 3 too, which, like you just said, if we didn't have the strike, we would be so much closer to having that on our screens already. So if it really is going to be until January of next year that we're going to see the show again, I have a feeling we're going to have to wait a little longer for that episode.
Yep, same. And I just want to say to Kennedy, you are so sweet and you like made my entire day. So I had to highlight that comment. Like, thank you. Like, that makes my day. Cause I'll tell you, I sometimes feel very much in my 40s. So anyway,
You don't
side
look it.
note. Well, thank you. Makes my day, you guys. Very sweet. Okay, so let's start with the time passed in each season during season 1. Emily,
Mhm.
start with the teen timeline. How much time do we assume passed in season 1?
So we estimate from the beginning to the end of season 1 that in between 5 and 6 months have passed. We know the group had to miss prom to attend nationals, which for me, prom was at the end of May when I was in high school.
Yep.
So That's where I put it at. Them being at the end of May when they leave. We're able to estimate how much time has passed through some Easter eggs. Like Shauna's pregnancy is obviously a huge indicator as to how much time has passed.
Yes.
When they first get out there, she doesn't know she's pregnant. She realizes she's pregnant because all the other girls start getting their period and she doesn't get her period. So I think we're supposed to think that she gets pregnant the night before they leave, that night that
Mm.
she has sex with Jeff. I think
Yep.
that's when they want us to think that her pregnancy started. And that would make it so that the timeline would like sync up with how much time has passed to the end of season 2, like her at the end of her pregnancy. Like that's 9 months. So, and at the beginning she's not showing at all, and she starts to show towards the end of season 1. When we see Doom coming, she struggles to get her dress zipped up. She has to have somebody else help her dress zip up. And
Mhm.
you can see her belly starting to get a little puffy.
So cute, by the way.
And we can also estimate how much time has passed based on the weather, because when they first crash, they're able to safely sleep outside for a couple nights and not have to worry about the elements until they find the cabin. And at the end of season 1, Jackie sleeps outside and ends up freezing to death because it snows for the first time, which
Mm.
I think puts them, just based on the fact that June coming was supposed to be around homecoming, Halloween. I think that puts that at like the beginning of November for the first snowfall.
Right, and maybe even slightly sooner. I mean, gosh, it gets cold up there, right? But definitely sometime in that fall region, so that makes sense.
And that would be about 5 or 6 months, like
Yep.
from May to November. So, yeah. There are clues. It stinks that we don't know. I've been thinking about this all day, that we don't know if they've been keeping track of how much time has actually passed while they're out there. Like they obviously have obvious indicators like Shauna's pregnancy, but do they know the exact day, the month, do you know what I mean? Have they
Right,
been
like, did they
keeping
start
track of
making
that?
tick marks or
Yeah.
something when they crash? Now, we've
Yeah.
talked about this. I would assume Shauna, with her journaling,
Yep.
would have been tracking in some way, like day 1, day 2, or if not the
Mhm.
dates, just how many physical days, but I also wonder as the time passes and they're hungrier and colder, do they forget to do that? Or maybe
Yeah.
that's part of their routine. They wake up every morning, they put the tick on the wall and, call it a
But
day.
if they were keeping track and they were using a system like that where they were, like, drawing marks or something like that, if the cabin burned down, that probably like, went with it. So
Good
their
point.
so their tracking of time is gone now if they did do something like that. Because the map that we saw, Ty, Van, Coach, Nat all looking at and using in season 2, that obviously, I'm assuming, burned in the fire because
We
nobody
didn't
thought
see
to grab
anybody
that.
grab that.
No.
Yeah.
Mm-mm.
Mm, big loss.
Yeah.
Big, big loss.
Yeah. Big time.
Oof. So, in terms of season 1, in the adult present day timeline, how much time do we estimate passed? And just let me preface this by saying, what an unequal passage of time between the
Oh
2
my
timelines.
gosh.
Like, that's something that's always just really stood out to me is how it
Yeah.
can be so little time in one and then months in the other. So, it's
Yeah.
interesting from a storytelling and consistency standpoint, but again, 2 different timelines. So,
Mhm. Well, hardly any time passes from Travis's death in the beginning of the season until the end of season 1. We know this because we see Halloween and we see Ty's political campaign and election day, which election day always falls on the first Tuesday of November. So it has to be around that time in the adult timeline. But these are mere days going by. It's only a brief time later that the adults start to receive like the blackmail threats that we see in season 1. And I don't know about you, but I think we've had this discussion before. It seems like the reunion and the election fell on the same day.
yes, we did conclude that, and it's probably one of those suspension of disbelief situations, but if
Yeah.
election day is on a Tuesday, again, they're probably not gonna hold a reunion event on a Tuesday night. I mean, I would
Yeah.
assume it would be a Friday or a weekend, so
All in all, impossible for more than a month max to have gone by in the adult timeline. And that's being generous. I think it's less than that. I think that it's more like 2 weeks.
God, which is
And
wild.
yeah, somebody pointed out on, I think it was Reddit a long time ago, that they made a point to say what day it was in every episode of the adult timeline in season 1. Somebody
Mhm.
references what day it is in every single episode. So, like for example, when they have Jackie's birthday brunch, Jeff asked Shauna if she forgot what day it is. He says it's Wednesday. Did you think it was Monday or something like that? So every episode they say what day it is, and I feel like that's an indicator to show too that not a lot of time is going by.
Right, definitely. And just one thing on time, and we have the comment in here from Sylvia. I wish we saw the episode where they got rescued and a reporter would have said the date. I was looking for that. Yes, that would have been great. We believe
Yeah.
it's 1998, but also we're getting a third timeline. This has
Mhm.
been teased by the showrunners, and so that's something we can look forward to season
Yeah.
3. We assume it will be the rescue timeline, which would be 1998.
Mhm.
It's possible it could be before the crash because we've also seen that they're teasing the return of Allie. So is Allie in the 98 timeline? Is this pre-crash? Like, when is it? I lean towards 1998, the rescue timeline, of course, but
Yeah. I think that the 98 timeline has potential to be better than like both timelines that we have
oof,
already.
wow, that's a strong statement, Emily. That is a
I
strong
do.
statement. I like that.
I mean, we're also curious to see what they do when they like reintegrate into society and are back in their normal lives after being in such a traumatic environment for 19 months. That's such a long time.
Such a long time with so many alarming things that happen.
Yeah, so many.
Ugh. Yeah. So essentially season 1, not a lot of time has passed. But now let's talk about how much time do we think passes between seasons? And again, I think this passage of time is an important thing in our discussion of which one is more compelling because it really feeds into the flow of the entire story.
Mhm,
So, um
absolutely.
between seasons, Emily, what are you thinking between season 1 and season 2?
Well, between for the teen timeline, between seasons, we figure it's around 2 months to be exact because the showrunners have come out and said that it was around that much time that had passed in between seasons. Also, another indicator again is Shauna's pregnancy. She looks a lot more pregnant when we see her at the beginning of season 2 than she did in season
Yes.
1
Yes, she
when
does.
she's sitting in the shed talking to dead Jackie. Um Also, because if you think about it, they killed the bear at the end of season 1, which you think would provide them with a lot of food for quite a long time. And Shauna points out in one of the first episodes that rations are low and they have to cut back again because they don't have a lot left. So I'm assuming that has to mean quite a bit of time's gone by because that bear was huge. That bear should have sustained them for longer than 2 months, I thought. Yeah.
Giant bear. And somebody was sneaking the food. We know, Javi was potentially sneaking into the meat shed and taking some of the rations, so it could have
Mhm.
disappeared, but that would be a lot, to go missing as well, so I don't know.
And also, Travis and Natalie have been out exploring the surrounding wilderness, and that obviously is going to take some time. We know
Yep.
that they went about 7 miles in each direction from the cabin. And that's a good amount of ground to cover considering the fact that there's like feet of snow on the ground. They have no gear. They have no idea where they're going or where they are.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, so that's going to take some time too to do all that. And in 2021, no more than a few days have gone by in between seasons. Adam was just reported missing on the news, and Misty was on one of those citizen detective boards, like a Reddit kind of thing, in season 2. And the post that she read referenced the mini golf date that Shauna and Adam had. And it said in the post that that had only been a week ago.
Oh,
So,
interesting, interesting, and, Kaylee also pointed out, of course, Halloween, definitely a marker for the Shauna Adam party, which is a
mhm,
tight timeline,
yeah,
between that and the election, so
yeah.
a lot of things are happening very
Mhm.
fast in the adult timeline.
And Natalie is kidnapped and then brought to Lottie's compound. So not a lot of time could have gone by in between those two things happening either.
Yep, that is very true. That is very true.
Yeah.
Yep. Um, so in terms of the passage of time then, season 2, teen timeline, the 4 to 5 months,
Mhm.
of course, the weather, the food situation, the pregnancy, the dialogue and whatnot.
Mhm.
Present day in season 2, Nat getting kidnapped, of course. We know it's early November with the election. So the passage of time, like which do you prefer from the standpoint of the time going by? Do you prefer the adult timeline where it's moving much faster, or the teen timeline with it being a slower passage of time? Just in the time aspect, not overall.
I don't know, honestly. I really
I
don't
kind of
know.
like how fast it goes in the adult timeline, but to me, it just doesn't seem believable that it's only been
Yeah.
like 2 weeks over 3 seasons. So from that standpoint, you know,
I wonder if that'll change, if the passage of time will change in future seasons, if we'll see longer periods of time in the adult timeline like we see with the teens.
I can see a time jump in the present day for sure, after the fallout of Nat's death, like maybe a
Yeah.
6-month time jump or something where we're seeing the fallout. Is Misty still with Walter? What's going on with the Sadeckis? Is Lottie still committed? Is Van still
Yeah.
alive? I mean, lots of questions. So I could see a time jump perhaps serving them well to get them out of this, you
Yeah.
know,
I
whole
agree.
situation. And speaking of whole situations, one of my biggest cons of the show, and I think of the adult timeline in general, Saracusa, the police procedural. Our friend Ro, who we've done some episodes with, we were supposed to do something with her on how they lean on this as such a
Yeah.
crutch in season 2, and it's too much. And again, we've talked about this, Walter and wrapping everything up in the bow.
Mhm.
Why did Kevin Tan have to die instead of Saracusa? Why even have this guy? He's so creepy. Everything about him, for me, he's probably one of the worst parts of the entire show. Like, I hate him. I
I
don't like him.
feel like they made Kevin Tan die and not Saracusa because this isn't going to go away. Like, he's going to come back and be a thorn in their side and cause them problems because we've all been wondering, where do the adults go from here?
Yeah, and
So,
like Kaylee saying, I feel like the way it ended, it almost felt like a series finale with the
yes,
adult timeline,
I
which
put
does
that in the
allow
note.
for this big time jump. You know what I was thinking would be fun? We should start putting our show notes in the Patreon so people can read them,
Oh,
because
yeah.
you do such a great job and you're so thorough and comprehensive,
Thank
and I
you.
feel like people could just get so much information. I mean, of course we talk about it, but there's
Yeah.
some things we miss. You're so
Mhm.
comprehensive. So if any of our patrons are interested in that, just a little thing that we could do. Side
Yeah,
note.
that would be cool.
Yeah. Some Morbid does it, and I love Morbid, like, they're my favorite podcast besides us. Anyway, I digress.
Um,
So, cons. Let's continue with the cons of the adult timeline then. Like, what for you, I mean, I assume you also feel strongly about Saracusa, but what are some of the other cons, would you say, in the present day?
a lot of the fandom seem to have a problem with Callie. They don't like her. They think she's annoying. They think she gets too much screen time. And I personally think the way season 2 ended, that Callie's presence on the show is only going to grow and become bigger. And she kind of annoyed me in the first season, but season 2, I liked her. She she made me laugh. I like the fact that Shauna and her kind of like broke through that like tension and are getting along, and Callie sees her mom in a completely different light now because she knows so much more
Yes.
about her.
Completely different.
Yeah.
Completely different.
Um the way, and like Kaylee just said, the way things ended in season 2, it honestly felt more like a series finale than it did a season finale, with Lottie going to the hospital, us finding out that Van has terminal cancer. These are things that just seem like they would come at the very end of something and not like the midpoint.
Right. I mean, it almost could be, excuse me, could be a series finale, just the way that they did it. And Anne's here, the cop
Yep.
storyline, and Walter wrapping it all up is one of the main things that ruined season 2 for me. I mean,
Mhm.
seriously, I just said it. Like, could not agree more. Could not agree more. And Emily, to your point of Callie and other people that don't like her, and how much screen time she gets, what other reason would they have for giving her all the screen time unless she was going to be becoming a bigger part of the story in season 3? I think it's the logical
Mhm.
progression.
Yeah.
Otherwise, she would still be that kind of secondary, character, but she's
Yeah.
just getting more and more as time goes.
I actually wrote in the notes the entire police storyline of season 2. Sarah Douche. We hated Syracuse so
Sarah
much.
Dusha. I love that. What a great actor, though, to be able to play
Yeah.
such a dickhead. I mean, honestly, to make an entire audience and fandom hate you that much. I mean, and I'm just going on a limb by saying most everybody hates him. Great actor, great acting, terrible character, great writing to create such a terrible character, but too
Yeah.
much Saracusa, like Kaylee saying, too much focus on the police storyline, wanted more care to the adult relationships. Ty was
Yeah.
kind of dropped besides how she's with Van. I mean, Ty was completely dropped. That's a big
Yeah.
one for me too, is where the fuck is Steve? What's happening with Simone? Who is watching Sammy? Again, not a
Yeah.
lot of time has passed, but these are still valid questions, even for a day and a half. Where's your son? Like, where is
Yeah.
he? What's
Yeah.
going on? Is your dog dead? Is it on an altar somewhere? And the Ty Van thing, like, we didn't even get Van until episode 4.
Yes.
Could we have not
Yes.
had more Lauren Ambrose in season 2? I mean, like, is that too much to ask? Maybe she was
Yeah.
wrapping up Servant. I don't know, but come on.
One of the bigger cons for me, I think, out of the adult timeline, at least in season 2, was them all being separated. The show is so much better
When
when
they're
all the women are
together.
together. Their
Yes.
storylines all separated, it just seemed very scattered, and the energy and the dynamic that they have when they're all together on screen is just amazing.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
amazing.
That moment when they all got together at Lottie's compound again was like goosebumps. I love the
Mhm.
Avengers Yellowjackets look where they're all just kind of standing there,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
love that. I love it when they got back together, and that's when the action really started picking up again,
Yeah.
and all these secondary storylines, kind of went to the wayside a little
Yep.
bit. But yeah, that is another really big con I think with the adult timeline. Like, more adult togetherness is what we
Yeah.
need.
I hope that going forward, it's not them all separated again because I feel like the adult timeline is at its strongest when they are together.
Yes, and can I just tell you in your notes, I really love when you do all caps, like Sarah Dusha, and we hated him so much, like, the uppercase, like, really just it comes across, I like it.
Yeah, I mean, and like we've said about the police storyline, much of the fandom felt like it took up entirely too much time. A lot of time was wasted on that storyline that could have gone elsewhere.
So
Like
much wasted
like
time.
Ty, like we were just saying, like Ty. Like who is the man with no eyes? Why is she seeing him? And to your point, where the fuck is Sammy?
Right? And is Simone, like, gonna be dying? I mean, she drew the whole symbol on her. Is that something to
Yeah.
protect her, or is that, like, a mark of death? Now, I mean, I just
Mhm. I know.
so many questions. But you know what? There are some positives with the present day timeline. What would you say your biggest positive is with the adult timeline?
I think it's been really interesting to meet all of the adult women and see how the experience in the wilderness kind of affected them all individually because I mean, they're all extremely different people and they all deal with their problems in completely different ways. So,
Yeah.
that one was a big one for me and the introduction of the new adult survivors in season 2 with Van and Lottie, I really enjoyed that. In season 1, Natalie and Misty together, my favorite duo of the entire show, like, to this
Love.
day.
Love. And you actually got to attend MegaCon in
I
Orlando and
did.
asked Juliette Lewis a question,
I
and you
did.
asked her what was her favorite scene to film. And of
Mhm.
course, what did she say?
She said that her favorite scene to film was any scenes that she shot with Christina Ricci
Yep.
and the scene in the hotel room where she has the freak out moment with the face cream on her face.
Yep. I love that she referenced Christina and, just said
Yeah.
it's so great working with her. I think that's really cute. And I completely agree. Those two together on screen are just such a dynamic duo. Everything from the first moment, with the gun
Yeah.
and Juliette Lewis,
Mhm.
coming into Misty's house. They're so great. They're gold. And that might be
Yeah.
my number one thing altogether, I think, for the adult timeline. And like you said too, seeing the adults they've become and Betty and June. I love that. And like the trauma, seeing how the trauma has impacted
Yeah.
their lives is very compelling because of course this whole show is rooted in trauma, overcoming
Mhm.
it, survival, etc. So really this trauma manifesting itself is also quite compelling, I think.
Who do you think in the adult timeline deals with it the best?
Ooh, the best. I mean, I think Thaisa makes it seem on the surface like she is, but of course we know behind the scenes she's sleepwalking, she's like killing
Yeah.
dogs and cutting off their heads, but
Yeah.
also she's a state senator. She won a senatorial race, so you can't be a complete schlub and win an election, and not have your shit together. But behind the scenes, I think she's the worst of all because
Oh,
she has
yeah.
all of this unresolved stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Now, Shauna, on the other hand, comes off as like a suburban housewife and this and that, but she's also chopping up rabbits from her yard to make
Mhm.
chili and like holding people at gunpoint
Mhm.
and different things. And it just reminds me of the conversation they all had in the minivan between Nat,
Yeah.
Shauna, and Ty, where Nat kind of said, we're all messed up. You guys just you do a better job of hiding it because you've got
Yep.
family, you've got other things.
Yep.
So, from that standpoint, I feel like they're all still very fucked up in their own different ways.
I
They just,
agree.
some hide it better than others, I think,
Yes,
is how it
as
goes.
Anne said, none of them, but some are better at pretending.
Is it
So,
Anne
yeah,
or is this anonymous knife AN from Twitter or is it Anne? I don't know. I'm not sure. I don't know.
I don't know.
I don't know either, but anyway, just curious.
Another pro for me was it when, like we just said, the show is at its strongest when the women come together, the adult women come together. So that was a huge pro for me when they
Yep.
all got together at Lottie's compound, seeing them all dancing around the fire together and actually enjoying each other's company. Oh,
Shauna's
hello.
knife. Yes. I know. I think I mixed up your handle or whatever, but I assumed it was you. So anyway, thank you for joining. Nice to see you here. Appreciate that.
Another
Um,
one would be Walter and Misty together for sure. That was another big one for me. Their dynamic was great. I love the way they bounced off each other, their citizen detective duo, the Sherlock and Moriarty. I loved everything about it.
I also love Walter and Misty. I love Elijah Wood. They are really great together. And you know what? If we can't have Nat and Misty together, he's a good secondary person to
Yeah,
have on screen.
I agree.
But my hope is that the present day timeline will get even more compelling because I'm still holding out for Coach Ben to be revealed as a survivor. And I think that shit will really hit the fan when that happens. And I
Yeah,
feel like not only does the present day timeline need a time jump, it also needs another survivor. And
it
Coach Ben
needs
would be the
something.
most compelling for me. Akila, I think, would be great. I don't know about, Jen, Melissa, but give me some Coach Ben. Let's put some prosthetics and makeup on Steven Kruger. Like, let's do it. Team Ben, he was framed. Yeah, I mean, evidence points to him burning the cabin down, but as we all know, evidence is not always correct with Yellow Jackets. They
True,
have red herrings left and right. It almost seemed too
true.
obvious, but we'll see what happens. I'm still holding out hope that he sent the postcards and he will be revealed. And yes,
That would be the most epic twist. I would
best.
live for that.
Yep. I mean, apparently I'm not the only one. It looks like other people definitely would not mind Ben coming either. And they've killed off Kevin Tan. So, room for
Mhm.
another male in the mix, if you will. So
We've had this discussion between the two of us, but for everyone watching, what would you prefer? Would you prefer if we saw Coach Ben to have it be Steven Kruger aged or a new actor?
I think for authenticity, aged using makeup and
I
prosthetics, just
agree.
after seeing what a great job they do in various shows, but especially This Is Us. I think This Is Us is one of the
Mhm.
shows that's done one of the best jobs with aging, Mandy
Yeah.
Moore in particular,
Yep.
throughout all of her stages of life. And I think they could do a very believable job with Steven Kruger. And I just
I
feel
think
like
so
they
too.
need him and they need that energy. It might not feel as believable to me if they went with another actor.
I agree. I
Yep.
think it would be so much better if it was him.
Jessica agrees. Sylvia agrees. Yep, Carrie, I hope he survived and sent the postcards. Yes.
We're not alone in
And
that hope.
yep, and you know what? Like Haley said, he'd be a cool tether between the timelines. So,
Yeah, that's so
oof.
true.
Yeah, yeah, he's great. I love Steven Kruger.
I do too.
I forget who he's married to. I just saw a picture of him and his wife. I was like, oh, I didn't know who he was
Oh, he's
married to.
married? I
I
didn't know
think,
that.
or maybe it's a girlfriend. I don't know. I'll have to Google it. Maybe somebody can Google it. But whoever it is, they make a very cute couple. Let's hope for Coach Ben in season 2. Okay.
Yeah.
Teen timeline. Let's start with the pros of the teen timeline. I mean, there's so many. Where do we
Yeah.
even start, right?
Yeah, there were too many for me to list all of them. I could have listed everyone, and this would have my notes would have been like 5 pages. So, for me, and I know for you as well, this is a really big one, the 90s nostalgia that we get in the teen timeline.
Huge.
From the clothes to the
Huge.
music to the dialogue, the 90s timeline is flooded with nostalgia, and we are here
Flooded.
for it.
Love every second. And you know what? That's what initially got me into the show. I mean, the pilot with all the pit girl, whatever stuff, Cannibal Council, but the music, the cornuts,
Yeah,
the co-ed naked, I mean, the caboodles, all of it. It is
yeah.
my jam, like 90s all the way. So,
I mean, the 90s were the best decade in my opinion.
I mean, were they not? Sorry for everybody else that was not alive in the 90s.
I
Um,
think another one for me was the dynamic between the girls and their different personalities, like getting to know each character and how they interacted with each other was really interesting to see, and see those relationships form before our very eyes. Yeah, the only shot of them all together. But
yeah.
there's 2 of them in that picture that I don't recognize, and I don't recognize as extras either.
So I feel like those were the two who one of them, oh no, because Jen was in season 1, huh?
She was, yeah.
She was. So, so they either perished or they were other background actors and they just cut down on the number of background actors.
And that was the pilot too, so
Yep, yep, exactly. Things
yeah.
change. Things change.
The 90s timeline just had so much action. So much happened in both seasons, like the wolf attack, Laura Lee blowing
Oh,
up, Jackie's death, Shauna's pregnancy, Javi going missing, the card ritual being established, the hunting of Natalie and the eventual death of Javi.
yep.
The passing of power from Lottie to Natalie was a big one for me. Crystal and Misty's friendship, loved that. Finding the tree
Yes.
cave, Ty sleepwalking, the list just like it goes on and on and on and on. Like I added so many pictures for this episode just because I knew there were things that I'd want to talk about and I wouldn't remember unless I had a picture of it.
I know. And it's funny. People probably are like, what is Melanie always looking at? But I'm either looking at my phone, which is right over here, which has Emily's comprehensive notes, or I'm looking at the pictures, which is on the other side of my screen, figuring out when to show. Like maybe someday, if we're super fancy, we can have like a backstage producer like put up the pictures for us. But until then, I will continue to look at the pictures. And there are a lot of them because there was so much action in the teen timeline. I mean, season
Yeah.
1 especially was just,
Yeah.
oh, from start to
So much.
finish.
Yeah.
Start to finish. And, you know, I'm just going to go out on a limb and say the opening scene of the pilot with the pit girl and Cannibal Council for me is one of the best pilot
Oh yeah.
scenes of all time. I
Yep.
mean, I just hope it can pay it off, live up to the hype, and give us more of that, like
Very
before
few
season 5.
shows. There have been very few shows that I've watched that have managed to pull me in completely within like the first 5 minutes of watching it. I am a huge Game of Thrones fan, but I watched the first couple episodes one time before and I didn't care for it. Gave up on it. Couple years later, went back to it and I loved it.
Yep. Yep.
But with Yellowjackets, it was immediately from the first scene. I'm like, give me more of this right now.
Yeah, and not a lot of shows do that. So major props.
Yeah.
You know, Kaylee mentioned the Jackie feast felt very worth the imagery, and I agree with that. Like we were literally like drooling to get the cannibalism finally,
Yeah.
and I think even with the bite of the ear was pretty shocking, but then to go into the snacky situation and the way that they
Mhm.
did it, you know, interspersing the Grecian
Yeah.
feast theme was just really beautifully done. I mean, it
It
was
was.
beautiful imagery and it was a way to kind of lessen the blow of
Mhm.
that initial cannibalism. And I mean, then we have Travis biting into his brother's
I was just gonna
heart.
bring that up.
I mean, what? That was wild. I did not
Yeah.
see that coming. I didn't even think he was going to be able to eat Javi in general,
No.
but to bite the raw heart, which I get is, a sacred, like ritualistic type thing. I believe in native cultures, not positive, but yeah, that was really crazy to watch.
I think that was him in a way showing them that he was okay with them eating him too, because
Right.
that's so personal, like his heart, that's so personal.
Ooh, and I mean, he has to buy into it because he doesn't want to be next, right? So if
Yeah.
he's out there being all, "Oh, I can't believe you guys did this, blah blah blah," and kind of like Coach Ben was doing, then
Yeah.
odds are you might be next, Travis. It's not like you're all high up on the, rankings here anyway. So
No, definitely not.
no.
Um, Another one for me was the fact that the teen timeline left off on such a cliffhanger. It was in season 2, the cabin burning down. I remember watching it the first time and I'm like, did that just really happen? Oh my God. Because
Yes. I rewound it and watched it immediately. Like, what?
before it happened, I was thinking, like, that's how they're going to end the teen timeline? That doesn't seem right. And then obviously we see Shauna discover that the cabin's on fire. And I was like, wow, that was not what I was expecting to happen at all.
Did
And
not see that coming.
it's the perfect thing to catapult them into what we see in season 1. They have no shelter anymore. So I feel like that's going to take them down a notch and make them act even crazier.
Right. I mean, and things are already crazy. I mean,
Yeah.
the whole Javi situation was
That was so
really,
sad.
really hard to watch. And if we're talking about sad things, oh my God, I still can't even rewatch Key. Like it is
Yeah.
just too, too much,
Yeah.
but emotionally impactful. And for me, that's a pro because I mean, I was crying. That was hard hitting.
Yes, I agree, Carrie.
Lottie laughing hysterically after they got out of the cabin was perfect. Yeah,
She
that is
did look like she
very
was
on brand.
laughing. Yeah.
She did. She did. Why? I mean,
I
you
mean,
the underground tunnel with the candles and stuff, we've always speculated
mhm,
that has to do with her discovering an underground mine or tunnel. But what if all of the candles and the fire were more symbolic and like all that fire was symbolic of a premonition of the cabin burning down? Because the candles
hmm,
were black underground, right? They
they
weren't
were.
white, which would signify evil to me. So I don't know. Maybe that's way out there. I still think there's something to the underground situation, and
Oh,
it could
yeah.
be a premonition with that, obviously. But just in thinking about the visuals of all of the flames and the fire and the candles and then, the fire, I don't know.
Mhm. Some people have speculated that with the cabin burning down, it's going to reveal an entrance to some kind of a tunnel or a mine or another cave like we see that Ben finds underneath the cabin.
Oof. I mean, there was all that dripping, which we suspect
Yeah.
is probably a hallucination, but who knows? Maybe part of that was not a
Yeah.
hallucination. So maybe
Mhm.
it's tied into the underground. Oof.
Yeah.
That's what I need in the teen timeline. Like, I need them to finally reveal why was that moss melting and why are the
Yeah.
symbols on the trees? Like, there's still a lot of mystery to be had. Still
So
got
much.
a few seasons to go, but more mystery in the teen timeline, obviously, than the adult. But let me tell you, I might change my view on which is more compelling if Coach Ben comes back and sent the postcards in the present day. Like, that is what I need for season 3.
That would change things a
I will
lot.
keep saying it constantly until
We're gonna
season
manifest it.
I sure hope so. We'll have to pay close attention to Steven Kruger's, like, Instagram and see I don't know. I mean, we're not gonna get any clues from Instagram, so oh well,
Probably not,
probably
no.
not. You know what I would like, though, is casting news. That would be really
Yeah.
nice.
I'm hoping that if there is an additional survivor in the adult timeline, that they keep that information to themselves, but
Yes.
I hope if there are new additions to possibly, like, the adult timeline, like we saw with Walter, like, they announced
Secondary
that ahead of
characters.
time. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah.
Just
Oh, that'd be great.
breadcrumbs. Give us some breadcrumbs.
Breadcrumbs, but I could use a big reveal. I mean, a time
Yeah,
jump, a big reveal, like, we need some spiffing up in the
we
present day
do.
here. We need some spiffing.
Yeah, we do.
So, hopefully, we'll be getting it. Now, cons to the teen timeline. What are some of your negatives and drawbacks for the 96?
It was really hard for me to come up with cons, honestly. Um, but one would be that we've already discussed this a little bit, we are no closer to figuring out who Pit Girl is than we were at the beginning of season 1. Will the payoff be worth it? Some people say that it will be cheap and not as suspenseful if Pit Girl ends up being a random red shirt that had no plot development whatsoever. And I kind of agree with that because it seemed like it. I mean, that scene seemed very significant. The Pit Girl scene, Cannibal Council scene. So I don't know. If it was just a random girl, I feel like that would just be not as exciting.
It's got to be Jen or Mari. I feel like it has to be. I don't feel like, okay, if they introduce more new extras in the teen
Yeah,
timeline, which they might, because we did see those extra 3 in the
we
card
did.
draw scene. I don't know. That does kind of annoy me. And one con I have, I think, with the teen timeline is how they introduced those new extras. I mean, they just kind of jumped in with them in season
Yeah,
2. And I mean, what other choice did they have? But it took a little getting used to, I think
yeah.
is the way. And I like Melissa and Jen, and, I love Crystal.
Mhm.
I think, that's great. It just was, like, felt abrupt, and I, like,
It
needed to
did.
get to know them a little bit, and we're still getting to know them, so I
Oh,
don't know.
look, somebody agrees with what you just said.
Oh, yeah, adding more extras and characters that have been there from the beginning. Yeah, I mean, I understand they need more people to eat and whatnot, but
Yeah,
at the same time, it just felt a little like the cabin's only so big, and they
yeah,
did build a bigger one, I believe, on the soundstage than the actual one they used in season 1, so there was more room in there. That doesn't
yeah.
mean you have to fill it with more bodies
No,
necessarily, but,
no.
I just kinda hope they don't introduce more like they did in season 2, but I think they're going to because we saw
Yeah.
them in the card draw scene, so
And they were standing in when we see the cabin on fire and it pans out at the very end of the episode and it shows the cabin from overhead. You see the group all standing there, and there's a group of 3 people standing off to the side away from them.
see,
So,
I initially thought those 3 were Akila, Melissa, and Jen, but
I don't think so.
don't think so. Okay.
Mm-mm.
I'm gonna have to recount. Oh gosh. But yeah, I assume that they're coming, so it'll, just take more getting used to.
Yeah. Another one for me would be Javi's storyline. Why make him go missing only to kill him off a few episodes later? Was it because Luciano is growing and aging and he's aging quicker than will look realistic in the show? I
I
mean,
think
that
that's
would
a
make sense
huge
to
part of
me.
it. I
Yeah.
mean, we interviewed him and he grew 6 inches between season 1 and season 2, and I mean, it's only gonna get more noticeable as you go. I mean, he
Yeah.
joked about, like, growing a beard, but I mean,
He did.
everything about it, like his voice, I mean, it's a change of lifetime of life. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know. I don't know that they would have had a choice because I think all of the girls play older than they are, but Javi definitely with another long hiatus,
Yeah.
it would not be believable.
Yeah. I agree. I mean, his voice sounded like it changed between seasons. So,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Another con for a lot of people would be Travis and Travis
In
and
general.
Natalie specifically. A lot of people felt that their relationship was given too much focus and they really didn't like it because their relationship wasn't exactly healthy, if you will.
Yeah,
And they felt like annoyed that Natalie was focusing all of her attention on a guy. That really bothered a lot of people.
yeah,
I mean, Travis was definitely a dick sometimes, but I think that his journey in season 2 was one of the most interesting just because of all of the things that he went through. And I feel so bad for him by the end of season 2. Like, he went through it, man. Like, for real. He
yeah.
lost his dad, he lost his brother, and then got his brother back only for his brother to die. Like, his brother essentially died twice to him.
Ugh. it's so hard hitting. And then, of course, to see the manner in which he died, which, by the way, we still do not have all the answers to either, because
Mhm.
we don't believe a word Lottie says.
No.
Which is another thing. Like the whole Lottie Travis death thing for the adult timeline for me just felt, I don't know, just I just want to know the truth. I just want to know
She
the truth.
We know she's lying just because she hallucinated seeing Laura Lee as a demon, and when she told Natalie the story about what happened, she conveniently left that part out
Yeah.
and didn't tell her, like, "Oh, the reason why I forgot to push the button is because I was hallucinating something."
Yeah, and maybe like lie isn't the right term because, if it is mental illness manifesting itself, then it's something that she actually just can't help, and
True.
it's just kind of embedded. But regardless, we know that her version of the truth is very different than what we
Yes.
suspect happened. So,
Yes.
yes, and mixed bag, who I believe is Kim. I love the Travis and Nat relationship in season 1, and it felt weird that Nat ended up seemingly losing interest in season 2. And something that was weird for me was that whole Travis and Nat sex scene too, like with the whole Lottie
Yeah,
envisioning, like
that was weird.
that felt a little strange to me too. I wouldn't put it as a con necessarily, but it was strange, and maybe just to establish Lottie in this light as kind of like this sacred person. I get
Yeah.
that, but I don't know.
Yeah.
Didn't love it.
No,
Oh, yes. Hi,
I
Kim.
didn't
I thought it
either.
was you. I should also shout out our Instagram viewers. We recently just started streaming on Instagram, and I can see over in my other window here, we've got some people joining and comments. So thank you guys for watching there. It's a new
Yeah.
functionality with StreamYard. We used to stream on Twitter, and now we decided to go on Instagram. So, hey, Insta people, thanks.
Hello. Oh, there was another one that I just had in my head, and now I can't remember.
Oh, we have Ryan, who's backstage, one of our patrons, saying, "We know that Lottie's narration isn't fully honest, but do we know that what we saw on screen isn't accurate?" Fair point. We may not, I mean, it may or may not be accurate. It could be, and maybe there's just
Yeah.
some exaggeration, with what happened, but, I still think there's somebody else involved with it, like,
Oh,
things
I
just are
do
not
too.
like, things don't feel right still with the whole Travis death thing, and, you know
I personally think there's a chance that Lottie, maybe she didn't sacrifice him, but she didn't save him because she thought that rewarding it with
it
something would bring the adult women back together again, and that's what she wanted to happen.
Right. And it'll be interesting to me to see whether or not Lottie being committed again is a pro or a con for the adult timeline. I mean,
Yeah.
is she still going to be there when season 3 starts? Is this going to be, I mean, she was in an institution for 25 years before,
Yeah.
or around there. Is it going to be a pro or a con her storyline with her mental health? I'm really interested to see if someone tries to break her out.
That's what I was just gonna say.
I mean, that would be really cool, like, that would be a pro.
Yeah.
If we're just getting random scenes of her, locked up, I don't know how compelling that is, but I'm
Yeah, I
sure they have a
agree.
plan. I'm sure they have a plan.
Yeah, I agree. I think her going and them breaking her out would be really fitting,
Mhm.
and it would be great storyline. I would
Ugh,
I would I would enjoy seeing that.
and I would not be surprised if we saw some, Callie Lottie sines happening
Yeah,
in season 3. The comment that Lottie made
so
about
creepy.
Tashana, like, super creepy.
Your
Super
daughter, she's
creepy.
so powerful. Like, you've never met her before. That was just weird.
Yeah.
And that scene also made me wonder, I know we've had this discussion before, if Callie was the only natural born child of any of the survivors, and that's why there's such significance placed on her,
Oh, that could
because
be.
we don't know who Sammy's mom is. We don't know if it's Simone or Ty who gave birth to Sammy.
Or neither. Maybe, I mean, maybe
Yeah,
he's adopted. I mean, it,
yeah.
could be neither. Um, yeah, that's or if, he is biologically ties, then is he the next generation? Are him and Callie somehow going to become intertwined? That
Yeah.
would be very interesting. But Aiden Stocks, who plays Sammy, how are they going to deal with the
Yeah.
aging of him? Are they going to have to recast? That's another one. I feel like maybe the only other character where it could be a potential issue with the aging situation. So,
I feel like there's potential for, like, Sammy to be kind of like Ty because of what we see, like, with his drawings. The drawings that we see are
oh, yes.
so creepy and so detailed, and they're things that he shouldn't know about.
Right? Like,
Um,
why is he drawing all the eyes and the weird circles and what looks like the man with no eyes?
yep,
I
unless he's
mean,
seen it for himself, because
right.
I highly doubt Thaisa has ever told Sammy anything that happened to her when they were in the wilderness. He might not even know. I mean, he probably
Okay.
knows. He knows what happened to her, like, because people call her a cannibal and stuff like that. But
Right.
he doesn't know the details, obviously. He's a little kid.
Yeah.
And there's no reason why anybody would ever tell him anything like that.
No, it's way too soon. Some things you just don't need to share with your kids until they're
Yeah.
much older.
Yeah, for
And
sure.
I speak from experience. But I mean, just overall, oh, okay. What I wouldn't be surprised if he's recast, kind of like Liam in
Yeah,
Shameless. Oh,
I
good point.
remember
Liam
that.
in Shameless. That is a good one. And maybe another actor will be cast to make a bigger role for the character. That makes a lot
Yeah.
of sense too, because they have to resolve it in some way. They
Yeah, they can't
have
just
to
let it
resolve
go
it in some
completely.
way. If I don't find out where Steve and Sammy are and Simone's fate within the first like 2 episodes of season 3, I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know.
yeah.
Oh my
Tawny
God.
Cypress did say in an interview that we will get more on Thaisa's storyline in season 3. So I
Yep.
think there's gonna be a shift and there's gonna be a bigger focus on her, and we're gonna get a lot of answers to things that we all wanna know.
Definitely. And, Ryan in the backstage is asking, why is he drawing the Antler Queen? Another really good question. Like, how does he know
Exactly.
this? I mean, he has to be manifesting it from the same place where Ty manifests this man with no eyes that her grandmother also saw. And
Yeah.
we've done a little research, and I don't believe this is like a genetic situation,
No.
but it's got to be supernatural then, right? Because I
Mhm.
mean, we've debated heavily on the supernatural versus logical. And the funny thing is, everything has a supernatural or logical explanation. But this particular thing, I can't think of a logical explanation as to why this boy is drawing all this weird shit.
None. Literally
Like,
none.
zero. None.
Mm-mm.
Yeah.
There is none.
Kennedy saying, I think he's genetically ties, but Simone gave birth to him. I think that would make good
That's
sense.
possible.
And really, I mean, it doesn't matter biologically, like which one of theirs he is,
No.
but from the standpoint of wanting to know if he's inheriting some of this tie stuff,
Yeah,
compelling.
for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. Now, I think, we've gone through a lot of the pros and cons. I stand by my assessment that fucking love the teen timeline. I love it. I love pretty much everything about it.
Yeah.
I relate to the adult timeline, though. I relate to these women at their age and, their lives. I don't relate to, like, chopping up rabbits and cooking chili or, I'm not, like, out there murdering people, but
He's
just,
not
you
cutting
know,
off any dogs'
from
heads.
exactly, exactly. But, it's relatable. Like, you're out there living life. I have a hard time relating to teens that are eating each other in the wilderness. It's been a long time since I was a
Same.
teenager, never ate anybody. So, but God, there's so much action in the teen
Yeah.
timeline. It's so good.
Ooh, one more con in the adult timeline.
Oh.
Natalie's death.
Oh, you know what? How did we not mention that? And there is a picture in here. It's the last one. Very,
Yeah.
very suiting. I think a lot of people were like, also, why was Travis not in the airplane?
Yes.
It's
Yes.
understandable why we saw Javi, like why we saw Lottie, but like no
I felt like
Travis.
it was a missed opportunity. It would have been so impactful for her to see him
Yeah,
because he was obviously very important to her.
yeah.
Very important to her. So, yeah, that bothered me.
She saw
And
Lottie, right? She saw Lottie.
she did.
Okay,
Mhm.
okay. For a second, I was thinking
And
that.
it really, I mean, I know the fandom had extremely mixed feelings about her death, and a lot of people were very, very upset about it. Felt like it was very premature, and just never saw Natalie not being a part of the show.
Yeah, that definitely was abrupt, although I feel like people were kind of speculating that Juliette Lewis would leave the show, whether it was, for personal reasons or maybe this was the story the whole time. I'm interested once the entire series wraps up to hear from Ashley and Bart, was it was all of this planned, or did like what changed as they went through? Because they can have a
Yeah.
plan in their head, but you're at the whim of a network production company and they're in the writer's room and new ideas come up. So I'm curious to know if that was always the intention to end her life at the end of season 2, or if there were extenuating circumstances that had them speed it up.
I personally think that it was always planned just because Julia Lewis said at MegaCon that she prefers to work on movies to TV shows because TV shows are a lot longer of a commitment. They're years long commitment. Whereas a movie, you're only there for a couple months, you move on to the next project.
Right.
And that's just her preference. So I think that when they pitched it to her, they told her that you're only going to be signed on for this amount of time. So like, will you commit?
Yep. Yeah, I mean, that makes a lot of sense. I've thought that maybe moving forward, they will get rid of an adult cast member at the finale of each season.
Yeah.
So I would imagine that would end with Shauna. If I was guessing who they'd lose at the end of season 3, maybe Van, give her a 2-season arc. She's got the cancer, but she won't die from the cancer. It'll be some other
No,
thing that'll surprise us. So
no. I don't think that's going to be how she dies if she dies.
yeah. So, I don't know. We'll see. But, speaking of compelling things along with the show, besides the timelines, let's just talk about the marketing really quick and
Mhm.
how smart they have been. And there's, of course, a transition between Showtime and Paramount, which means a fresh opportunity. Now, some of the wins Showtime had, Emily, from their marketing, like what was your favorite of the different marketing things that they employed?
Oh, I mean, when they sent us the jacket in the crate, that was obviously a huge one. The crate made noise. It screamed when you opened it, like the screams from the night of Doomcoming when they were hunting Travis. So I thought that was really cool.
Love
And
that.
obviously the clue sheets that we got every week for season 2 were a
Yep.
huge one. That was so awesome to get those clues.
So smart. And they had the Yule log last holiday season where they just had the log burning. Oh my God, Kaylee, I love that. She has a framed gallery in her living room of all the letters. I keep mine right now in my crate and I had them on like a murder board bulletin board, but I want to do that. I want to frame mine as well. I think
Yeah,
that's
I do
such a
too.
cute idea.
Yeah.
Such smart marketing. And then there was the time they had the candle burning where we all
Yeah.
just sat and watched a candle burn before the trailer, which was really cool. Like the
Yeah.
fact that you can just get people to sit there and watch a candle burning
And it
is a
was a long
testament.
time
It was
too.
it was a big candle. There was a lot of wax going on there. A lot of wax. But
It was at least a half hour, at
I mean,
least.
and we're all just sitting there like texting each other, like, oh my God, yeah. Oh, that was highly exciting. And I'm excited for them to ramp up to start promoting season 3. It'll be the last quarter of the year, I'm sure, maybe
Yeah,
before. But I am hoping the Paramount team, they've got big shoes to fill.
they
Showtime,
do.
what an amazing creative marketing team they had. And I really look forward to seeing what Paramount brings. And
Yeah,
ooh, God, mail
same.
me some more stuff. I love it. I love
Yeah.
it. I'm
Yes,
surprised,
please.
like, they had the Funko release, and, I'm wondering, like, is there gonna be, like, a Funko party? I don't know, like, there's gotta be something fun, you can't
Yeah,
just mail people varsity jackets and then, you know, not come back stronger, so I'm looking forward
that's
to it. I'm
true.
excited. I'm
Yeah,
excited.
me too.
Yes.
Me too.
Yes. Well, this was a lot of fun. I think our hope is that for everybody who ends up rewatching later, you comment and you let us know which timeline is more compelling for
Yeah,
you. I think most people skew towards the teens, but you know what? There are a lot of fans of the adult timeline out there, and they
yeah.
both have their pros and cons. Let's face it. Like, they're both good in their own ways. But
Mhm.
that teen timeline, pretty good.
Yeah, it just reigns supreme in my head.
It really does. It really does. I mean, just so many things. But
Yeah.
I am hoping that we get more excitement this upcoming season, like in the form of maybe more Pit Girl content.
Yes, please. I'm dying for that, like dying.
literally dying. Oh, you know what? Shauna's knife. I like the adult one better, but I know I'm in the minority. So there are a lot of people that like the adults. And she's a big Melanie Linsky fan. So
Is.
naturally, and we should just point out like the powerhouse acting abilities, which is something we didn't mention, of course, but the acting in the adult timeline, like these women are seasoned pros and they
They
are
are.
so good. And you know
Yeah.
what? Like the teens are also very good at what they
Oh,
do, and the
so
timeline
good.
itself is great. But from an acting and talent standpoint, I mean, you can't get better than Melanie Linsky and Juliette Lewis
No.
and Tawny Cypress and I mean, gosh, you know, Elijah Wood, Lauren Ambrose, I
Christina
mean, Simone
Ricci.
Kessel, Christina Ricci, they're all just so incredibly talented.
They
So
are.
that is a huge pro. And I'm actually really glad that we are closing the show with that because I mean, that might be the biggest pro of all. It's just the sheer talent in the present
Yeah.
day timeline. So,
Yeah, I agree.
yeah, definitely. And Kim says she likes the timelines equally in season one. Season two preferred the teens for sure. I cannot wait to
Okay.
see what season three holds. I want to come back and do this show again after season three. And I want to say, you know what? I think the season three adult timeline is the best of all. And you know what will make that happen? Coach
Another
Ben.
survivor.
Coach Ben.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So we'll revisit this again once we have our third timeline and once we have another season. But until
Yes.
then, drop some comments, visit yellowjacketshive.com. We've always got content coming for you guys, and we appreciate you all.
Yes. It's been fun.
Always is.
So until we spill again.